Okay, hello folks. This week we are going to look just at a wee revision week on integer arithmetic. So integers is our next topic, and really only hopefully a recap. This is something that we did last year and hopefully that you'll be relatively happy with, but we'll just do a quick recap and we'll go from there. Okay, so first thing I'll just remind you of is the kind of basic rules of adding and taking away. So we'll just do a few little examples here, just to remind ourselves of what's going to happen, okay, depending on what we have. And then we'll look at multiplying and dividing by as well, and then we'll look at a little bit of kind of algebraic stuff just to finish. Okay, so just a few wee rules to remind yourself of, folks. So when you have a plus and a minus right beside each other, like we do in this question with no numbers in between, remember that becomes a minus. So 3 plus minus 2 is going to become 3 take away 2, which is 1. Okay, similarly here, we've got that plus and a minus right beside each other, so it becomes a minus. Now the numbers don't change, so we still have minus 10 and 3, it's just that plus and a minus now becomes a minus, so this is going to become negative 13. Okay, remember if you need to, you can use a number line for working out your calculations if you're struggling. Negative 3 take away 10, the two negatives are not right beside each other, so we're just sticking with that normal sum. We're starting at minus 3 and we're taking away another 10, so that would be negative 13. Okay, and then with the last one, when we've got two negatives right beside each other, that becomes a plus. So this will become 3 plus 7, which is going to be 10. Okay, so that was a little reminder of the plus and the minus right beside each other becoming the minus, and the two minuses right beside each other becoming a plus. Where you guys have maybe got a little bit confused in the past is when we've had things like this. Okay, so we're on to example 5. When we've had things, as we've said, like minus 7 take away 15, say. Often we think, oh, that's two negatives, it must become a positive, especially when we start talking about the multiplying and dividing rules. But remember, we're only doing adding and subtracting in this question, so the mixture makes a minus idea, and the sign's the same makes a plus. Doesn't hold, that's for multiplying and dividing just. Okay, so minus 7 take away 15 is going to be negative 22. You're really doing 15 add 7 and making it negative. Remember, now you'll have different ways of doing the questions when they are with bigger numbers. Okay, so 41 plus minus 50, 41 take away 50. I know that the answer is going to be negative because 50 is bigger than 41, and I think about it as 50 take away 41, but then make the answer negative, so I get negative 9. Okay, so the first couple of exercises in the pages that I've given you, kind of exercise 3 and exercise 4, that's really just looking at adding and taking away. And there's a whole mixture of stuff in there, and it does give you little examples to remind you. The one thing it does also do that we've maybe not really looked at a huge amount is it does a few algebraic things. So, for example, if we look at example 7 here, it does things like 8w plus minus 7w. Okay, now just treat that in the exact same way. First of all, that plus and a minus right beside each other are going to be a minus. So we're going to have 8w take away 7w, and then 8w take away 7w would just be 1w or w. So don't let the fact that it's a negative number, not a negative anything, don't let the fact that it's an algebraic term make it any more difficult for you, okay, because it's not. What we then need, guys, is the rules for multiplying and dividing. Now remember, this is where we had the rule that if the signs were the same, it was positive, okay, when we've got two numbers multiplying or dividing each other, and when it was a mixture, it made a negative or a minus. A mixture makes a minus. So that was the rules that we often use. So if we do a few examples of... So we already know that if we have something like 13 times 2, the answer is 26. And that's a positive answer, and it's because 13 and 2 are both positive numbers. So if we have negative 13 times negative 2, we've got a negative times a negative, so the answer is going to be positive, and then 13 times 2 is 26. But if we had negative 13 times positive 2, which we would just write as 2 obviously, or if we had 13 times negative 2, then there we've got a mixture. We've got one positive and one negative number. So a negative times a positive is a negative, and a positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, and the rules work the exact same way for division. So if we have minus 10 divided by 2, it's a negative divided by a positive, so we've got a mixture, so we're going to get a negative answer, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, if we have 49 divided by negative 7, we've got a positive number divided by a negative number, so the answer is going to be negative, and 49 divided by 7 is 7. If we've got negative 81 divided by negative 10, then we've got a negative divided by a negative, so the answer is going to be positive, and 81 divided by 10 would give us 8.1. So just a little reminder of that as well. Now, where we can kind of take this on a little bit is when we taught this last year, we really just looked at what happens when you have two numbers. We did very briefly look at what happens when you have more than two, but let's just have a wee look at this now and talk about it. So, in example 8 here, if we have 2 times 3 times negative 4, what's going to happen? Okay, now, if we don't clarify the rules that we spoke about, we would say, oh, a mixture makes a minus, so our answer is going to be minus. Okay, but actually it might not be as straightforward as that. We need to do it in stages, guys, so don't try and do it all at once. 2 times 3 is 6, so we've got 6 times minus 4, and then 6 times minus 4, well, that's 24, but a positive times a negative is a negative. So in this case, then yeah, the answer did become negative. But what about if we had 7 times minus 2 times 5 times minus 10? Now, that is still a mixture. So if we think about the rule in the way that we first learned it, in terms of a mixture makes a minus, we would probably think the answer to this is going to be negative. But let's have a look at it. We're just going to do one step at a time. So if we just do 7 times negative 2 first, we get negative 14. And then we've got times 5, and then times negative 10. Now, if we do the next part, negative 14 times 5. 14 times 5 is 70, so that's going to be negative 70. But our final step is we have to multiply that by negative 10. Negative times a negative is a positive, so we would get positive 700 as our answer. So when you've got more than one number being multiplied or divided together, or we eventually will be using it with BIDMAS rules as well, I would suggest you just take your time with it, okay? Do each step one process at a time. Okay, so that should just be a quick reminder of all of that. Okay, it should be enough for you to get on with the wee section from the textbook. There's also some stuff up on My Maths to help you practice that. Okay, the one final thing that I will remind you of is when you have something like negative 8 squared, remember that means negative 8 times negative 8, which is going to be positive 64. Now that's a crucial thing as we go through maths in the next few years, so just try and keep your head around that.